it would be normal. We could head back down. The lowest target we have is around $39,000 if we do head back down. There's a lot of support that we have there. I wouldn't expect us to go lower than that. But do keep that possibility in mind so that you're not panicking if you wake up tomorrow and we're down 10, 15, 20%. That would still be very normal. But of course, it would be really nice and better for our stress levels if we just go up from here. That is slightly more, I expect that slightly more than us going back down for various reasons, which I've covered a bit. So we're looking up now to get, certainly first step is to get past that $58,000, and then we're looking towards $70, $80, $90,000 depending on what model you use for our next target, and that's when we would expect a deeper drawdown. This correction's only been 26%, and at some point I think we're going to get a 40%-ish. Good job that one off. 40% pullback at some point. So use what has just happened as preparation for that mentally. Because if you thought it was difficult this time, imagine dealing with 40% over the course of, let's say, 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's what happened last time. And I would expect similar to happen this time, probably in a couple of months, in 1 to 2 months. So hopefully that's a nice little update on today. I should have said at the beginning, please start popping questions in the chat and I'll start working my way through them. There's a few on Instagram already, which is brilliant. On Zoom as well, you can always raise your virtual hand if you would like to ask me in person. And I do have some questions that people have been sending to me directly as well, if we have the time. So, question from Dano on Instagram is, Cardano, what are your thoughts on its future? A lot of people are aware that I'm very bearish on Cardano. And bearish means that I'm not overly optimistic about its future. If you look into who is developing applications on Cardano, because that's essentially what it's for. It's meant to be a layer 1 blockchain for people to build on top of, like Ethereum or Polkadot or some others. And there's currently nobody really built. There's a few little games on there, but when you compare it to Ethereum, you have basically all of DeFi built on Ethereum. Now, what a Cardano maximalist would say is that they're only just going live with smart contracts. And smart contracts are what enables that development to take place. And I believe that happened today. And one of the reasons why the massive run up in Cardano has happened over the past month is because people were preparing for today, and it was very exciting, I believe. And Cardano actually looks weak today, which is quite normal. We call it buy the rumor, sell the news. It's quite often when something goes live, then there's a sell-off. So now will be the true test about whether or not developers choose to build on Cardano over Ethereum and Polkadot and other blockchains. That'll be the true test. Does it mean that the price is going to go up or down? I mean, within a crypto bull market, altcoins can go up even if they don't have great utility, and especially if they have great marketing. And Cardano has great marketing. So I'm fully expecting the price to do really, really well. And it's done fantastically well over the last month. So I'm very happy for those that hold it. But long term, I don't back anything to take out Ethereum, which is what they're trying to do, because it's got such a head start and so many great applications on it already. If I was gonna guess what would happen to Cardano. I think it will perform well this bull market because of the hype and the marketing, and they'll start, I'm sure, getting some development on there. And I believe that it will eventually fall by the wayside and essentially go in the garbage, similar to something like EOS, which was big in the last cycle and is now a bit of a ghost chain, which means nothing is happening on it. That's my base case for Cardano, and I might be proved wrong. And I'm very happy to be proved wrong. As soon as I start seeing developers choose it, I will go bullish on it and maybe add it to my portfolio. But at the moment, it's I'm avoiding it. No questions on Zoom yet. Somebody asked me one just so I know that it's working properly. Somebody asked me if I've got dressed today. Yeah, kind of. You know what it's like in lockdown. It's some days you get dressed, some days you don't. Some days it's half and half, which is today. Thank you, Gemma. Good, just everybody's listening then. That's perfect. Very happy for you to be doing that. I'm getting questions on Instagram. So Johnny asks, is our end game still September? Or is it still too early to project to the month? So as I've laid out in the course, the 2021 Bitcoin playbook in my Instagram link bio area thing, I've created a range for where the cycle peak is, and that's based on previous cycle history. And I break down exactly how I've calculated that. Now, at the moment, it's a range, and the range in there was between August and October. And right now, we're just keeping that range there, and we're not trying to drill down further because we're waiting for more data to appear. And the next time I'll really recalibrate is once we've made our next leg up, which I'm expecting to around $80,000-ish, then I expect that we'll have a major correction. Again, just prepare yourself for that. Last time it was 38% around that time. And then we'll resume upwards from there. And at that point, we're looking to well into six figures. So once we've been through that next wave, that will give me a really good basis to then go and recalibrate and look at previous cycles and start to really refine that range. And we won't get to a date. I will never be able to say to you the top of the market is going to be the 12th of September. But what we will do is refine. So currently we've got about a 3-month range. As we get closer, that will probably become 2 months and then 1 month. And there's a few other indicators that we're looking at that will only become clear when we get very close, such as the price action, because in the last 2 weeks, the price goes parabolic. You know, if you think that some of the moves that we've seen so far are big, well, the final 2 weeks, you're essentially going to get 20% moves on a daily basis. There's going to be absolute euphoria. Most of those will be up. And all over the media, you will hear that Bitcoin's going to $1 million. That's when we'll have our final indicator that says, right, we are at maximum, they call it maximum greed at this point. Bitcoin is now in a bubble and it's now overvalued. Right now it's undervalued. And now we start to implement our take profit strategy. And that take profit strategy will be in blocks, let's say 20% over 5 weeks, 25% over 4 weeks. I've made a good start to a cash out strategy in the course. So you must watch that as a baseline. And then once we've had this next wave that I'm talking about, I'm going to record a extra module, which I'm going to send out to everybody who signed up to the playbook, which will give an updated view of where we're at, more detail on cash out strategies. And then of course, as we really get into it, July, August, September, when things are going really crazy, I will be doing daily videos on YouTube, and I'll be explaining exactly what I'm doing. And that's not to say you should do what I'm doing, but I will just provide that awareness that I have, provide my research, provide you the options, and then it's for you, of course, to go away and execute that. Sam, a lot less fees on Cardano compared to Ethereum, ADA to the moon. I hope ADA goes to the moon. A lot of people that I love hold Cardano. Fees are less, yeah. The only issue with Ethereum is the fees. It is the most widely adopted blockchain by a long way for development, and that's only growing even with the high fees. The use cases on there are incredible. Institutions are buying it. The amount of transactions on Ethereum far outweighs any other blockchain. However, Ethereum is struggling to scale. So it's struggling with the weight of what is taking place on it, and therefore it's getting congested and the fees are high. There are solutions being worked on. The final solution is Ethereum 2.0, which we expect in about a year. But there are a few forks, they're called, changes to the code going live over the next couple of months. That should help with the Ethereum fees. It still won't get it anywhere near Cardano or Binance. And that is the advantage that Cardano and Binance have. But one advantage doesn't make an Ethereum killer. The proof is in the pudding, and that is what is actually taking place on the blockchain. And where we currently stand right now, there is only one winner, and that's Ethereum. Of course, that can change, so we'll see. When I say endgame, I mean top high before 4-year cycle ends. Yeah, I think I answered that, Johnny, but tell me if there's something else. Can you explain the NUPL chart? I keep hearing about it when it's up. BTC is down. I don't know what the NUPL chart is, but definitely DM me and I'll take a look. When are you expecting the next big wave dip? Will it be the big painful 5 to 6 week dip you were talking about last week, KT? Thank you. I am looking, as the shorter the time frame we look at, the harder it is to predict. We can say with a very high degree of confidence that Bitcoin is going to be a lot higher now in August and September. If we're looking on a month-to-month basis, harder to predict, but based on last cycles, what I'm looking at from here is a big March, potentially going into early April, up to $80,000 to $90,000. And then let's call it beginning of April, mid-April, for us to go into our war of attrition, which will be minus 40% over 6 weeks. It's preparing you for that. Of course, as soon as that happens, you'll forget that your portfolio is at 500%, right? And it will really be, you know, I've had messages over the past few days saying, God, this is taking ages. And literally this dip has been 1 week. So it will be hard. It will be hard. And the natural next question that I get asked is, oh, should I just take profits then and sell before we have this dip? And it's an incredibly risky strategy, because you see, I'm talking in ranges, you know, early April, mid-April, 30%, 40%. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Let's say you try and take profits, but you take it too early. You could easily miss out on a 50% move if you take profits too early. And trying to buy the dip is extremely difficult as well. You know, sometimes these things spike overnight when you're in bed. You could put orders in on some platforms, but sometimes your orders don't get filled. You're expecting 30%, we go 29%. Kind of now, right? If somebody was looking at doing this dip, 30% dip, I think we went to 26%. When do you start buying back in? Very hard to get the absolute bottom. Impossible to get the absolute bottom. Impossible to sell at the absolute top. And therefore, for the vast majority of people, unless you're a very experienced trader, and even then, I'm doubtful whether this is the right strategy to try and take profits. For the vast majority of people, what we've been talking about is still the right strategy, and that is to buy as early as possible. I've been talking about this for a year, and to hold. And then we aim to take profits near the cycle peak. That's the best strategy for the vast majority of people. Lee, thank you. Can you give us a basic understanding about the NFT buzz? Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet. There's a lot of noise around NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And in layman's terms, it allows you to tokenize real world assets or digital assets. So create a token that can be bought, sold, traded. And because it's on the blockchain, you can be sure that whatever you're receiving is the unique one that you're looking for. So as an example, there are many examples, and kind of break them down into physical and digital. So you can tokenize a physical asset or something that happened in real life. As you go down this rabbit hole, you'll get very intrigued. So for example, if somebody, let's say somebody scores the winning goal at the World Cup, the European Championship final this summer. Let's say England win it and Harry Kane scores the winning goal. Well, the recording of that, which I guess is kind of digital, but it's a real life event, the recording of that, let's say it's on BBC, can be clipped, and you can create a non-fungible token out of that. And then you could say, I own Harry Kane scoring the winning goal for England in the World Cup final, the BBC version of it, as an example. You could tokenize, in the digital world, what we're really seeing in the digital world is artwork, and people creating digital artwork and tokenizing it. So you got all kinds of incredible artists who are, I don't know how you create digital art, but when I was a kid, it was Microsoft Paint. I'm sure there are better ways of doing it now. They literally create artwork. It is a unique piece of artwork, even though it's digital. And they're selling it on NFT marketplaces. For example, the main one is Rarible, but there's also Nifty and Whale and a few others. And this is an amazing opportunity for artists, whether that is digital art, or it could be songs, or it could be performances. Some people have been creating personalized videos and selling them as NFTs. So it's about tokenizing the world, essentially. And when you create a token out of it, it means it can be bought and sold and traded. So then you create a financial market. Essentially it's going to be applied very, very broadly in the future, and we're just getting started with media mostly. Some of it's and gaming, art and gaming is where it's starting, but it can be applied in many different areas in the business world, legal contracts, insurance, all sorts. So it's exciting space, and it's just really, it's in discovery mode at the moment. There's a comment here, Beeple is an amazing artist. Yeah, I've seen that name. So like we talk about Banksy before, now there are going to be digital artists who make their living and their reputation in the NFT world, in the digital world. You don't need to go outside and paint a wall anymore. You could do it on your computer and then sell it online and become just as famous, just as wealthy, have a bigger impact on the world still. It's all about moving the world onto the blockchain. Yeah, just getting started. It's going to be some amazing opportunities there. You can buy tokens or cryptos of some of these NFT platforms. I mentioned the main ones that I know about. So if you think NFT is going to be a big space, you can start to add it to your portfolio. And of course, you can go in and buy the art as well. If you're that way inclined, if you have an eye for art, film, media, you can go and pick something which you think is going to be worthwhile in the future and have a play around. I haven't done that bit yet. David, I got invited to be part of a Doge supercharger on crypto.com today, asking me to buy some of their CRO coins and leave them in a liquidity pool for a while. In return, I would get some Doge. Is this something that is worth looking at? They break that down a few ways. You shouldn't be looking at anything to do with Dogecoin because it is a meme coin. There are so many amazing projects out there. Doge is just at the moment built on Elon Musk's tweets. So I'd be very, very cautious about that. Crypto.com, I've heard bad things about, but I haven't used it myself. So I'd be cautious there as well. I don't recommend crypto.com. Not bad, not like get out now, you've made a massive mistake, but I've heard people struggling to make withdrawals and poor customer service and stuff like that. I know it is quite widely used, but the bit about leaving them in a liquidity pool, if you applied it to something else apart from Doge, then potentially, yeah, we kind of talked about it last week. For example, you can stake your, I'm going to say Polkadot. Polkadot has got a quite big staking opportunity, which means that you're lending your coin, whether that's Polkadot or something else, to the market for them to trade with, but you still own it. And you get an interest rate. It's just like lending money. Just got a call there. It's just like lending. What's supposed to happen in the world is if you lend your assets, you receive a healthy interest rate. Of course, that's kind of broken in the existing financial system. So this is lending your crypto and receiving an interest rate. If you have Polkadot on Binance, for example, you can lend it and receive 16%, which I think is a reasonable interest rate. But be very careful with the platforms you use because there is risk involved with these things. That you don't get 16% without taking on some risk, but if you use an established platform, then you should be okay. Dan, Can you explain why Bitcoin follows the 4-year cycle, especially with so many external factors changing? Definitely make sure you watch the course because it's covered in quite a lot of detail. But the high-level summary is, as you're hopefully aware by now, there is a halving every 4 years where the amount of new Bitcoin coming into circulation cuts in half. New Bitcoin get awarded to miners for validating transactions every 4 years on a predetermined date. The last one was May 2020. That amount cuts in half. And what that creates is a supply shock. So if you can imagine the day before, there is a certain amount of supply coming into the market and a certain amount of demand. Then the next day, essentially, there is half the amount of supply and the same demand. And that's why you see immediately afterwards, the price really starting to move for about 18 months after the halving. That's when we have our bull market, give or take a few months. And so we have that supply shock. It's because the miners, when the miners get new Bitcoin, they sell it into the market to fund their operations. Now there's half coming in. So supply and demand plays out where the price starts going up. And then it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because as soon as the price starts going up, people start seeing the price going up and they start saying, oh, right, Bitcoin's going up, looks like a good investment. And it goes into the media. And as it becomes a greater store of value, because that's what's happening at that time, the value of your coins are going up, becomes a greater store of value, then Elon Musk starts buying it, right? So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy up to our bull cycle peak around September. But what happens in every investment cycle with every asset is that things overshoot to the upside and the downside. That's the fear and greed. And therefore, what happens at the cycle peak, August, September, is that there's massive FOMO in, if our models are showing 296,000, then we'll probably shoot up in the last few days to 350,000 because of all this FOMOing in. And then the energy is exhausted. All the buyers have bought. And now we crashed out to the downside. Gravity eventually does have to take hold to some extent. We'll never go to zero or go lower than a certain floor, but we can't go up as vertical as we expect to go up and not have a correction. And that's when our 80% correction comes in. External factors, Dan, is something I've thought about a lot. And I think there's almost something quite abstract or ethereal in this, in that they're kind of already built in. The Bitcoin is pre-programmed money. The supply is known. It's the only asset in the world that has that fixed supply and that pre-programmed halving event. And what that creates are these external factors. It's built into the system that I'm not taking credit, Satoshi has developed the most intuitive, innovative, hardest money and digital gold that has ever existed. So with that innovation comes the increased demand, because there is multi-quadrillion universe of financial assets out there that need to find a way to not lose their value. And they're getting sucked in to the Bitcoin black hole because of the code and the innovation. So the external factors, are they really external? Or is it already in a way built in? And that's just, there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's just something to think about. Alicia, you posted earlier a graph read Bitcoin all-time high index. Can you explain what that graph means? Yeah, I remember this, so I'll just explain it. If you go on Charts BTC on Twitter, he does some amazing charts. One of them is called the all-time high index, and it tracks the price performance from the new all-time high. So the all-time high that we broke was $19,000. That was the all-time high from 2017, and we broke it in December. And it tracks what the previous two cycles did from making that new all-time high. And the last cycle did a 17x return from there. And the cycle before did a 30-something-x return. And the line looks almost identical to the last cycle. So what I put on the graph was, if we go 17x from $19,000, then that takes us to $333,000, which is in the sort of range we've been looking at. Our target is $296,000. Now, there are many ways of measuring this. And right now, where the price is at, that's actually seems quite conservative. Some of the other ways we have of measuring it are showing us 500,000, 600,000-700,000. So that's going back to what I said at the beginning, that we'll recalibrate in a month or two and see exactly where we're at. But things are looking extremely, extremely bullish. What we have been expecting to play out for the past year is playing out in front of our eyes. Assuming that anything is possible, could government make Bitcoin fiat exchanges illegal or something similar to stop its momentum? This question gets asked on an ongoing basis, essentially for the past 10 years, way before I've been involved in crypto. Certain governments have tried. And Nigeria recently made Bitcoin illegal, and immediately the price went up 40% in Nigeria. Think about when anything has been made illegal, whether that's drugs, alcohol, guns, then usually the price goes up, because it kind of proves the thesis that this is something valuable. So at the moment in Nigeria, it's been traded on the black market, and literally people will be tapping each other's phones and selling or trading their Bitcoin for a 40% premium, and more so hopefully using it to trade goods and services. And that's exactly what's happening. It's happening a lot in countries that are struggling with hyperinflation or significant inflation, because it's where the trust in their national currency has evaporated. And we're seeing it to some extent in our country and the US and throughout Europe. That's one of the major reasons why Bitcoin is exploding in price. Governments will always try and interrupt the natural flow of the market, as you've seen many times over the past few weeks, months. It's the only thing they know how to do. They have to get paid for doing something. But even on a, can't think of the word, but look at it this way. If they were going to do it, would they have done it by now? Bitcoin's been around for 12 years by now. They have tried to do bits and pieces to try and stem the flow, and it hasn't really worked. And now where we're at currently, if we were speaking 6 months ago, I'd have probably been talking about the fact that, yeah, but if they do, there'll be another country that makes it legal and everything will flow there, which is still true. That's game theory, and that's sort of the backstop. There's going to be no coordinated global effort to criminalize Bitcoin, because they're not that coordinated. They're not that smart. The politicians have proven time and time again that they're incapable of something like that. But I don't even think we need to go there, because look at the adoption. Coinbase is doing their IPO next month, which is going to be one of the biggest IPOs in history. The US is really what we want to be looking at here, because the UK follows the US in most things. There are now loads of senators and politicians that own Bitcoin. They have to disclose it. They're starting to come out, and they're getting a lot of praise on Twitter. It's really cool to see. There is even a politician that has put her laser eyes on. I can't remember who she is, but she's a governor somewhere. And Goldman Sachs today announced that they're opening a crypto trading desk. We know a bunch of banks are heavily involved in crypto in various ways. We've gone past the point of no return, in my opinion, especially over the past 6 months. The developments over the past 6 months have been really incredible to see. So now I think it's more of a case of governments will try and find a way to stick their greasy paws in, whether that's taxation or some onerous levels of reporting requirements, or, I'm sure they'll think of some ways to annoy us, right? But it's more that now. It's just, they'll want to try and regulate it so that they can profit from it. The crypto world will try and resist that. And it will just be where that lands. And that may impact us somewhat, but I don't think we're going to get now to a stage of it being illegal. Because also, if and when a country does make that decision, and a few will here and there, they will really suffer the consequences. They will lose their top talent, wealth, entrepreneurs. Sarah, what do you think about staking ETH? I think I answered it before. It's just make sure that you are very comfortable with the platform you're using. I believe Coinbase and Binance allow you to stake Ethereum, which is great. I'm sure there are other really, really good staking platforms for Ethereum. So just do that due diligence. And if I'm right, I think you have to stake it for 2 years, Sarah, just with Ethereum, because it's up to when they release Ethereum 2.0. So if you are doing that, be sure that you're comfortable holding your Ethereum for 2 years. Nicola, so I'm just getting started in investing in crypto. I'm assuming now is a good time as pretty much everything has dipped. Yeah, if you're not positioned, everyone that's been following me is positioned, but if you're not, then of course to get, I think Bitcoin, what is it now? It's probably 15% off the all-time high, up 8% today or so. So yeah, better to buy it now, of course, than buy it 1 week ago, because you're getting a 15% discount. So I'd see this as the opportunity, but just see it as a bonus. Don't try and, this is for everybody, don't try and time the market. But for you in particular, Nicola, you've just been given a really nice bonus in that when you're looking to get involved, it's on discount and it's back under $50,000, which was our arbitrary line in the sand about where Bitcoin is still cheap. Mary Lou, what are your thoughts on Monero? I love Monero because it adds that layer of privacy that you don't have with Bitcoin. If you choose to, everything that you do with your Monero tokens are completely anonymous. But there is also one word of caution. going back to what we were talking about before, with governments, if there is one area that they will look to either legislate against or make very, very challenging, it's privacy coins. Because at least they know with Bitcoin, everything is on the transparent ledger. So there's a higher risk of regulation with Monero for obvious reasons. Now, again, if they do that, you can, of course, just keep it on an external wallet and not really worry about it. But if Coinbase and Binance had to take down Monero, I'm sure you'd see it go down 50% in a day, probably recover over time as people find other ways to trade it. So I'd just be, that's your risk. But I love Monero. And there's a big place for privacy coins for obvious reasons. Lee, I've been following labs groups. They are doing NFTs in the real estate sector using Engine Coin. Yeah, one of my friends was telling me about Engine Coin. I haven't had a chance to look into it. But yeah, NFTs in the real estate sector, I'm sure the uses are almost limitless. Just a comment from, no, I better not say that one. It's direct. I'm not sure if it's for sharing. Claire, is it a good thing that large corporations are buying into Bitcoin? Is there a risk they might try take it over and manipulate it as they do other financial systems to the detriment of the rest of us? I believe it's there's a bit of everything in here. Number one, adoption is critical to the price going up. So if you want to see the value of your investments rise, then this cycle is all about institutional buying. And therefore, you don't really have a choice assuming that you're looking at Bitcoin as a really, really good investment. Now, this is why the price is going to go up to $300,000. Sorry if you hear the dogs barking in the background. So it's a good thing in terms of, your returns. You're going to see loads of it over the next few months, especially as companies have to report their Q1 results, I believe, in April. Elon Musk and Tesla led the way. That was the last quarter. And in April, you're going to get everybody, all the CEOs who decided to buy in January, February, March, which I believe is going to be a lot. No one's going to want to be the last one to the party. So there's going to be a lot of it. Big rumors that Oracle are going to be one of them because Larry Ellison is close friends with Elon Musk and there's been some back and forth on Twitter. And they have $30 billion on their balance sheet. Is there a risk they may try and take over and manipulate as they do with the financial systems? For the most part, I don't think there's something to be concerned about because nobody is going to have control of 51%, which would allow them to make changes to the code. That's the big thing to be concerned about. The Bitcoin maximalists, the OGs, the hodlers, the community is so resistant to any sort of attack or manipulation. They're staying true to the vision, which they absolutely should do. And I don't think that will change because their value comes in protecting the system. They're incentivized to do so. Will you see some form of manipulation? Yeah, kind of, because there's manipulation in all markets to some extent. People have been saying this last sell-off over the past week was a certain mining pool who have a lot of Bitcoin started selling them to the market. So you could call that manipulation. They decide to sell all at once, but they obviously had their reasons, and it's kind of built in. We know we're going to get dips. So yes, people can move the market. It's still a small market. 1 trillion is not big. But they can also move it to the upside. If Elon Musk announces he's buying Bitcoin, it goes up 20%. So you kind of got to take the rough with the smooth. And if you have a clear strategy, which we have in the course, and a decent time horizon, then you're okay, right? You just watch the dips and you watch the rises, and you know that you're protecting yourself and your investments are going up significantly. So I wouldn't worry about it, is what I'm saying. Lee, with PancakeSwap low fees and the large fees on Uniswap, do you see this as potentially going parabolic? That is to do with what we talked about before and the Ethereum fees. The Uniswap fees are actually, the reason why you get charged a lot on Uniswap is because you're trading Ethereum tokens and the gas fees are high. PancakeSwap is much lower fees. That's the Binance blockchain exchange. What I would caution you on, or tell you to go and do your own due diligence, is that it's similar to Cardano. Binance Chain is just at the point of launching and proving itself. So go and research it in depth. I do follow a few people on Twitter who've been looking into it, who are far better at on-chain analysis than I am, looking at what's actually happening. Some of them have been raising some suspicion at the activity on the Binance blockchain, particularly saying that a lot of these transactions don't look real because there are ways and means for that to be faked or manipulated. Now that could be incorrect, of course, but just always be cautious with new projects, new blockchains, understand the risk and do your due diligence. If Binance Chain proves to be a worthy competitor to Ethereum and PancakeSwap is their decentralized exchange, then PancakeSwap will be uber successful. But there's still a question mark over that. On Instagram, love your advice, thank you. I want to buy Bitcoin, but if a 40% drop is on the cards, am I not better waiting until then? The answer is no. And the reason for that is we're not expecting the 40% drop to happen until we're at $70, $80, $90,000. And that could easily break to the upside as well. You know, what if we get to $80,000 and the market's looking a bit overheated, and then Oracle and Microsoft and Apple announce that they've bought Bitcoin? That's not out the realms of possible. And the price would just shoot up to $150,000, $120,000. So it's like what I said at the beginning, and this will be recorded if anybody has missed anything, but it's impossible to time. So a 40% drop might be on the cards. And by the way, I might have that wrong. There may be no 40% drop, right? But let's say there is. How are you going to know when that is? I'm giving you vague ranges to work with and some assumptions based on my work, but I can't tell you the date and the price and how much it's going to drop by so that you can get in and out. So currently Bitcoin is under $50,000. It's cheap, and I wouldn't try and time the market. I can't get my head around NFTs. Yeah, it's a complicated space. It really is. So I would recommend to go and use them. Get on some of these exchanges, buy one. You can get stuff for really cheap, play with it, buy it with your Ethereum, or Bitcoin and create something. There are different platforms where you create your own NFTs and then sell them into the market. So always the best way is to learn by doing. And then you may become really, really successful and you can share your NFTs with us on the Facebook group. Cat, if Bitcoin isn't used as a currency but store of value, what is the value of digital gold? To compare, our standard gold is used for crafts. Okay, so what you're talking about is digital gold it was historically used for currency and not anymore. Initially by exchanging gold, then by backing currency, and then of course we went to fiat currency and it no longer became money. And then it became a store of value for a couple of reasons. One, because it's been used as money in the past, so that history lives on almost in its DNA. And that's why you hear a lot of people saying that we're going to go back to a gold standard at some point, whether we do or don't, who knows. And gold also is a store of value, as you quite rightly said, because it has utility in that it's used in some sort of some industry, like in phones, but also in jewelry, like crafts, like you said. So that's why gold has value, and because it's scarce. Bitcoin. Firstly, you said if Bitcoin isn't used as a currency, first I would just say that I believe it will be used as a currency, because I think it's going to be, the value in Bitcoin is going to be overwhelming. It's going to suck everything in, and then the world will have no choice but to accept Bitcoin as currency. And you're going to see early adopters such as Tesla announce that you can buy cars with Bitcoin. So it's already being used as a currency, but I take your point that there's a chance that it won't catch on as like buying your coffee with Bitcoin. So even though I think it will, if it doesn't, what creates the value, I think is your question. Number one, it's the scarcity. There's 21 million already. We have incredible adoption already, which means there is more and more trust in the system. All money is a trust game, whether that is Bitcoin, gold, paper, cowrie shells, tally sticks. It's all based on trust. And as Bitcoin continues to gain adoption, it continues to add trust. And that comes from its security, stability, processing power of the Bitcoin system. The white paper that was wrote by Satoshi was innovative. You see all the other cryptos now using that as a baseline to go and create their own applications or blockchains. So it's an incredible amount of value now in the system, not just not just the 1 trillion market cap, but the trust, the fact that it's got adoption, it's on balance sheets, it is being used for transactions. So that's how I would explain it. But I think it will be all of these things because it's the best money that's ever existed. Gold was the best money, but you have an issue with gold in that you don't know how much is in the ground. It's hard to get out the ground. It's hard to move around because it's heavy. That's why people started using silver. And I still love gold and silver. But Bitcoin is better. It's a better store of value and it's a better medium of exchange. It is the ultimate money that has ever been created. So even regardless of the 4-year cycle, we have something in front of us, in my opinion, that is changing the world right in front of our eyes. I believe it will become the central part of the global monetary system. And this is one of the reasons as well why I wouldn't ever completely sell out of Bitcoin, even if you think we're approaching a cycle peak. Because if you thought that gold was going to become the reserve currency, I'm sure you would never sell all of your gold. There's a chance that Bitcoin does something even beyond our wildest expectations in the near future. So it's very important to stay protected, and that's what you are by holding it. Can you help me get back a wallet that I lost? I can't, I'm afraid. It's not my speciality at all. But I have seen, I can't recommend anybody, unfortunately, but I have seen websites and people on Twitter that profess to, oh, I know where I saw it. There was a big news story about somebody who had lost a lot. Within there was somebody offering, they said it was their speciality that they try and get in and then they take 20% of what they find. I'm sure there are services like that exist. I have no experience, but I would search around, and I really hope that you manage to get into it. Lucy would be interested to understand what regulatory measures could be attempted and how they may impact Bitcoin and crypto. I covered that half an hour ago, so I'll be uploading this on YouTube and Instagram immediately after, so do go back and watch. Francesca, what's staking? I did mention briefly, but it is essentially when you lend your crypto to somebody else, usually to a liquidity pool, which is where loads of people lend into, and that is then used for other people to borrow, right? It's like if you give somebody a loan, you receive an interest rate. You can give a pool, which makes it less risky, your crypto and receive an interest rate. There's risk involved, so make sure you do your due diligence, but you can certainly earn money on your crypto whilst it's sat there. Just be careful. Benita, apart from Coinbase, any other platform recommendations? Binance is my recommendation for various reasons, as covered in the course. My recommendation is you pick up the course in my IG bio, and there's a link to Binance in there and a demo that will give you everything that you need. Kate, what happens to Ethereum at the end of this bull run? Sell a percentage or keep holding? I would suggest that you look to exit altcoins towards the cycle peak because they're very risky, even more risky than Bitcoin. And the reason being is the next bull run, is 2025. And a lot of these altcoins will no longer exist because they're small technology startups essentially. Some of them are a scam and they've got no utility. Some of them just won't be able to execute on what they're trying to do. So I certainly wouldn't be looking to store loads of wealth in altcoins for 5 years. Ethereum may be the exception there because it is so established. Bitcoin is the king, Ethereum is the queen. And similar to Bitcoin, you may say keeping 10-20% in Ethereum because you believe that they will release Ethereum 2.0, fix their scaling and gas fee issues, and just continue to bring the world onto the blockchain, regardless of the bear market. It may make sense to keep a small allocation in Ethereum. I believe this is currently the last question, which would be quite good timing. That will be 1 hour. Wow, that's gone quick. But do pop in any final questions whilst I try and answer this one. What are your thoughts on Algorand? I've seen Visa or MasterCard mentioned in the same article, seems bullish when mentioned with these two giants. This would be an easy one because I don't actually know a lot or anything about Algorand. I've seen people talking about it. I should probably look into it. As you're probably aware, there are thousands of cryptos, and I haven't done my own due diligence on Algorand, but if they are partnering with Visa or MasterCard, and just check what that partnering means, because you can get real valuable partnerships, and then you can get, they're just kind of putting their logo on there for some odd reason, but it's not a true partnership. But it wouldn't surprise me if Visa and MasterCard are partnering with crypto companies, because they've both announced that they will be accepting Bitcoin and crypto onto their payment system. So if there's a real partnership there, maybe Algorand are supporting that rollout of Visa and MasterCard accepting Bitcoin and crypto as payment. If that's right, I've got no idea whether it is, then that seems extremely bullish. And I believe they are our questions. So thank you everybody for joining. Go check out my course if you haven't already watched it, it's free. And make sure, well, you don't have to, but watch my daily videos on YouTube, because I am attempting to hold everybody's hand throughout this next 6 months. I recognize that there are many questions that come up. So as we're seeing by these sessions, I was planning to do one session, and now it's becoming weekly, which is brilliant. I really enjoy them. I'm trying to join the dots throughout the week as well with our daily YouTube videos. So do watch them, do watch the course, and as always, just reach out to me if you want to talk to me or have anything that you want to ask me personally. But thank you for joining, and have an amazing evening. Thank you.